it appears we're back again.
I keep trying to keep you locked in the basement and you keep getting out. It's becoming a problem.
Yeah, I think a part of you is okay with me escaping because you leave the key on the floor every time.
Damn, you're good. You're very good. how
I
how
so
are you?
this I'm good. I'm
Nope,
good.
nope. How are you? Formalities first.
Okay. I'm good, Stephen. How are you?
I'm doing really well, thanks.
Great. Are we able to start the episode?
I mean, we can. I really think that it's nice to be back recording again. How about you?
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, it's really nice. So much has been going on, and yet um we get the juice that comes out of the conversation between you and I. I think there's so much that gets explored, and the conversation goes in directions that I wouldn't have anticipated otherwise.
Well, let's do it again.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
make the
Okay.
magic again. All right, what are we
Well,
talking about today, Adam?
today we're talking about the third Zen patriarch. His name is Sengcan. I'm probably butchering that, but
Definitely.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Sengsan. Well, it's spelled Sengtsan, and then in other sources it's Sengcan, and then in some sources it's Sosan, which I think is the Japanese way of pronouncing it. Anyway, um, can I just say the Zen, the origins of Zen are absolutely amazing, mind blowing. Just these Zen patriarchs are. I think I was reading that patriarch is not really the original meaning of the Chinese term. Rather, that founder I think is more accurate. Like these first few founders of Zen, freaking amazing. Uh, I'm just really starting to explore it in depth right now. But for example, I was blown away. I found out just yesterday. I think I probably should have known this, but
Definitely should have,
Bodhidharma.
whatever it
Right?
is.
Yeah, I should have. Bodhidharma. It was the first Zen patriarch, arguably the founder of Zen, um, in a certain way. Brought he was I think he was Indian and brought Buddhism and the particular form of Buddhism called Chan to China. And he had these like striking blue eyes and was like 6'3", super built, very impressive guy, very intimidating
Big
from
boy.
what, yeah, very big boy, very, very big boy. And such a badass. Like he basically, after 9 years in a cave of facing a wall, which apparently is the whole Zen tradition of sitting like zazen and staring at a wall, started with Bodhidharma because he was in this cave staring at a wall. He wanted no distractions at
Sounds a lot
all.
like Plato's cave. Do you think that's where Plato's cave came from? Did Plato's cave
Oh,
come from Bodhidharma, Adam?
uh, I don't think so. But staring at walls in a cave, I'm sure
You
there's
can't
a
see my
connection there.
face if you're listening to this, but I'm just smiling at Adam because I knew that he would take this question seriously. Okay, go ahead.
You're terrible.
Continue to disappoint. Go ahead.
Uh,
Okay, so sat in a cave 9 years staring at a wall. That's where we get zazen, which is
Zazen.
the base Zen practice of
Yeah.
meditation.
Yeah, exactly. Actually, and you kind of described you compared Zen with Tibetan Buddhism pretty nicely, or your friend did. Can you share what did you tell me yesterday?
Oh, yeah. So, we've talked about Tibetan Buddhism a lot on this channel, just as a reference. And Tibetan Buddhism, oftentimes for people learning it, it feels like there are a million things to keep track of and a million um, parts of language and concepts to hold on to before you can even start doing anything related to Tibetan Buddhism. That's certainly my experience, but Zen is almost the opposite. When you start Zen, you just sit, and it's as simple as that. and like everything, you listen to teachings and everything, but it's the simplicity of zazen is really the core of everything. And as you progress through the stages in Tibetan Buddhism, there can be a sense that the language becomes simpler and simpler and less has to be said. Whereas in Zen, it's the opposite. You start with zazen and then you progress, and then there's more and more, and then you get to eventually start reading like Dogen, which are these huge compendiums of information. And Tibetan Buddhism has its own version of that, but it's just interesting. They're almost flipped. Tibetan Buddhism almost gets simpler the higher you go, whereas Zen gets, in terms of like texts and concepts, gets more complex. It's a really big oversimplification, and I'm sorry to both Zen practitioners and Tibetan Buddhists.
As you should be. You
Hmm.
desecrate everything
I
wherever you go.
exist in a perpetual state of being sorry for my words.
So going back to Bodhidharma, what I thought was fascinating about him is um, I don't recall whether this happened before he spent the 9 years in a cave or after, but there's this famous interaction between him and a really powerful Chinese emperor at the time, and the emperor asks him these profound questions like, "What's the source of my existence?" Or "What's the source of all creation?" And Bodhidharma just laughs at him and says, "That's a silly question. Think of another one." And eventually, being unsatisfied with the questions that the emperor asks, he does it. He turns around and he walks away, which is unheard of. You don't do that to an emperor. You just don't. That's so disrespectful. But that, I mean, he didn't care. He didn't care at all. What he ended up doing eventually, after the 9 years in the cave, in which, so the story goes, his feet atrophied because he was sitting for so long. But there was a realization that the body needed to be prepared for extended periods of meditation, which is very similar to hatha yoga in Hinduism, or how that came about. But the body needs to be stronger, more robust, to be able to handle these prolonged periods of meditation and zazen. And so he went to this small temple in the mountains in China. I don't know which one or where, but he started
You
teaching
don't?
monks. I should.
Sorry,
I
go
should.
ahead. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
But he started teaching these monks different practices, um, like the horse stance and iron fist, and different types of practices to really get the body strong. All of these practices formed the basis of what we now know as Shaolin Kung-Fu, which was like a mind blow for me, because I studied Kung Fu when I was younger for several years, and it's like that's quintessentially Chinese. You would never associate that with Zen. I mean, I didn't. Uh, just only to realize like the first founder of Zen, where Zazen gets created, is also the founder of Shaolin Kung Fu. I mean, this guy's badass. Bodhidharma is so cool. Um, so Bodhidharma, bringing us to where we're at. Bodhidharma then passes the mantle to another character, and I'm not sure his name. Huiku, Huike, I think, who then passes his mantle, and by passing I mean sort of the transmission of enlightened mind to a third person, and that's Sengcan. Now, Sengcan, not too. I think the least is known about him. Um, Reportedly to be born in 496 AD and died in 606. Over 100. That makes him over 100 years old. But he is reported to have written something called the Shin Hsin Ming, which is it's interesting. It means verses on the faith mind. Shin means faith, and Shin means mind. But obviously, in Chinese, there's probably different tonalities to it. And like I said, I'm butchering these phrases.
Yeah, we're just letting you dig your own grave. Keep going.
Yeah, the grave has been dug. So it's called the Shin Shin Ming, And the reason I felt so compelled to talk about it is, first of all, it's only like, I don't know how long would you say this is?
10 pages.
10, yeah, yeah, 4, 5.
Actually, don't know because you're looking at something that I can't see.
Yeah, that's true. It's 5 pages in a tiny book that's smaller than the size of my hand. It's 5 pages. It's very, very short. Um, and it's been rocking my world. It is so profound. It's so concise. I feel like, so there's a form of this. I'm gonna get to reading some of it, but I highly recommend for those of you out there, go to YouTube, type in Hsin Hsin Ming, spelled, or just type in third Zen Patriarch Ram Dass. And there's a YouTube video of Ram Dass actually reading from this, which in itself is so cool. And just with his voice and the depth of these words, I think the video is about 17 minutes long. Just listening to that, I go into this beautiful, beautiful meditative state. And there's, just like any good parable, there are so many levels and layers to the teaching here. But let me just read the first 2 sentences. No, first 3 sentences. This is the first stanza, first paragraph. The great way is not difficult for those not attached to preferences. When neither love nor hate arises, all is clear and undisguised. Separate by the smallest amount, however, and you are as far from it as heaven is from earth. So that first sentence just gets me every time. The great way is not difficult for those not attached to preferences. Something so profound happens on a high level, maybe superficial level. You could say, yeah, of course, okay, don't have preferences, don't have likes or dislikes. All right, yeah, I get it. Quintessentially Buddhist, makes sense. No grasping, no pushing away. But then when you really go to the level of raw awareness, when you have subject object duality, just like right now, being present to whatever, listening to my voice, or whatever you're looking at, the sensation of the chair that you're feeling as you're sitting on it, these are objects in awareness. And it's so subtle, but maybe, and this is what I noticed in myself, in every given moment, there can be the subtlest of desires for this moment to be other than what it is. And in that, there's a preference. It's the tiniest of preferences, but it's there. And this is what Sengcan is saying. Like, separate from that by the smallest amount, and you're as far away from heaven as heaven is from earth. And that's what I noticed. Like, in this place of pure awareness, if there's the teeniest amount of preference for this moment to be other than what it is, then you've broken from it. And I noticed, in order for me to just completely be unattached, the only way out of that is to step as far back into naked awareness. That's it, just naked awareness, and allow all the objects to be as they are. And when I do that, and this is the profundity of what I've been noticing the last couple of days, is when I really, really go there, I notice the object always drops away with the subject. The object and subject dichotomy falls away simultaneously. There's no, Adam's not there anymore. When I really, really let go, when I totally allow the preferences to drop away, the object falls away, the subject falls away. There's nothing left. And things get so still, like a deep, deep stillness occurs. And that's why I just listen. I've been listening to this for 3 days now, every night, and I read it in the morning. There's just these waves of stillness that come from going deep into this falling away of subject and object. That's why I wanted to talk about this book.
That was great. Thank you.
Thanks. We'll probably end the episode now.
Yeah, I think that's it. I think we're good.
Yeah. Yeah, look, okay, this is the second stanza. Okay, I promise I won't quote the whole thing, but y'all should really
You
read
might. You might. You might.
it. Okay. If you wish to know the truth, then hold to no opinions for or against anything. To set up what you like against what you dislike is the disease of the mind. So good. So good.
Yeah. Yeah. This is the basis, I think, for one, thank you. That was really wonderful. And I think it's the basis for a discussion about what the implications of this are. You know, it's easy to hear that, okay, you basically you can't have any preferences, which feels like it feels like antithetical. I mean,
Yeah.
it feels like it because it is, just spoiler alert, antithetical to having a personality and having a life.
Yeah.
It and it can be really, this is one of the most common objections I hear. I mean, I listen to lots of teachings by different teachers. I myself have been in that position of talking about this very subject. Um, it inevitably comes up. Does that mean that I can't have a life, basically? Like, you just want me to literally sit in a cave and not have any preferences? And the answer is, like, that's kind of missing the point. It's not
Yeah.
about, like, sitting in a cave and sitting there not wanting to sit in a cave doesn't make your preferences go away. You know, like it's not about having no life. It's not about taking something away from you. It's about seeing that when you set up a preference and a dislike, you inevitably create tension. That just like tension is created. That's the whole thing. It's like a system that comes into being. There's something you like, something you want, you're avoiding, and those things, there's a tension between them. And all that this is saying is that when you dissolve, in your case, you said you watched subject and object disappear. So along with those goes all of those subjects and objects preferences, right? It's a whole world disappears. It's not just like, you said subject and object, but there's a whole everything else that comes along with those. And it's not about whether or not there's some sort of outcome called I get to live my life, or I don't get to, have pizza anymore because I like pizza, and I don't want to avoid I want to avoid not having pizza. Whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
I keep wanting to have pizza. It's that you have to look at the tension that's created. You just
Yeah.
you need to notice the tension that's created from having the preference, and understand that that's not your natural state. Because a lot of people feel that tension. They say, well, yeah, well, that's what life is. Life is just
Yeah.
tension. Life is, and there's kind of this, well, of course, like what else would it be? And that's the part that sucks about being human. And then we go through tension and then we die.
Yeah.
But that's what the profundity of this is, that, and what all of these teachers are pointing to is that that's not who you are. You think that's who you are, but it's not actually who you are. And there's actually a way, a method that all of these traditions, Buddhism's pointing to, of realizing that's not who you are. And when you realize that that's not who you are, the tension drops. And you start watching the tension form, and then you watch it fall away because you no longer identify with it.
That's the
And
key.
that is the profundity of this kind of teaching, is that it's not that you have to give something up. It's that you have to see that you were never that thing to begin with.
Yeah. Yeah. It's identification with it. And just to go back, I think that the key is the very first sentence, which is for those not attached to preferences. It's not
Right.
saying for those without preferences, or
Yeah, that's the key. Yeah,
for
exactly.
for those where there are no preferences, because I mean fundamentally in this reality the preferences exist. I mean I prefer a specific type of
Yeah,
coffee over another. I prefer certain
yeah,
clothes, certain books. Like preferences will always exist, and I would even argue some of the best literature, some of the best art, some of the best music is the play between tension and release. Tension and release. And it's so
of
rich.
course.
It's so so rich. But the key is if you're identified with it, as you said, or as
Yeah,
Sengcan said, the attachment to it. And what I've noticed, and I'm curious about your opinion, is when there's no more identification with the person who has the preference, but the person who has the preference is allowed to be with no pushing. Otherwise, everything becomes much more vivid and rich. It becomes a play. It becomes fun because there's no one there forcing or needing what is to be anything other than what it is.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I totally relate. I would say that is, I agree with your key that it's the attachment to the preferences. So many times we'll say like, I have a preference for something. I like this black pen versus writing with this blue pen, something silly like that. And we'll say, oh, an enlightened person wouldn't care. An enlightened person wouldn't have
Mm,
like it's like there's like they're a zombie, and that's not
yeah.
what it's that they're okay with their preference, and they're okay with because their preference is what is. It's like enlightenment can be described as being okay with what is, and what is a preference. In that moment, what is a preference. There'll be another moment when there is no preference, and it's that's why the dissolution of the self is so crucial to this whole thing. Because when you say, okay, what is Stephen? When I say what is Stephen's vision for Stephen's life, that's something that happens right now. But in 5 years, that could be in 30 minutes. That could be completely different. And if I go back and say, no, I can't. I can't change my mind because I made up my mind already. Like there, it's that already it's live in the moment. It's fresh, and that freshness. What is the preference now? You could say, since we're talking about preferences, that is there is a vividness to it. There is a, oh yeah, this is what it's like to want this and to love this and to have this experience, and that experience in and of itself is perfect. You don't need to resist that experience. And I think a lot of people, this gets into the next place that my mind goes, maybe because I'm a cynic, is the objection. Well, if you just have any preferences, then what is the point of morality? What aren't you supposed to have certain preferences? Isn't it right to have certain preferences over other? Isn't there a moral slant to this? And the whole thing that we're talking to, if you're listening to this, if you're already someone who's listening to this conversation and following what's going on and interested, that's not going to be a problem for you. I promise you that very few people who are robbing convenience stores are listening to this podcast. Those if you listen to this, you probably don't have a big ethical problem like that. And it's also a reason why the path, all of these paths always start with morality, because and we've talked about this before. You start building the base, and then eventually you have to dissolve what you thought you were that built the base. And you'll find that when you've done that work and you've gone through it, and you have transformed yourself, you have worked into becoming a good person with a good heart, that's heart first, that when things fall away, they're not replaced by a bad person. They're just replaced by love. It's like all of a sudden the love that you are and you have practiced generating and practiced being with and remove the barriers to, that love all of a sudden can just flow. And that love flows into every experience. It flows into the preference for the black pen. It flows into the preference for just sitting on the couch, or the preference for going and touching a tree. It doesn't, it, the love just starts flowing into those experiences, and everything, like you're saying, becomes more vivid, becomes more juicy. There's just a juiciness to everything that comes.
What you're describing, and this is where my mind is going to, is something that I've read about. It's related to Taoism, but during this period of Zen, going over to China, there's such a huge interplay, a very rich mixture between these original expressions of Buddhism and Taoism. And there's a phrase, it's called Zirun or
Oh, now you
Zujan,
can pronounce it correctly. Okay. All right.
because
Now
this
all of a sudden you can say these
I've heard
words.
someone say this word
Oh,
before.
okay.
That's the only reason. Other phrases, but so for those looking it up, Ziran, or I think the other way it's written is Tzu hyphen Jan.
Can we just put a link in the show notes?
Yeah, sounds good. We can do that. Um, and it refers to naturalness, like natural spontaneity, when there's no one there anymore, when there's no personhood, like a separate self. Action still occurs. There's the action still happens, but the place it's coming from is pure, natural, harmonious action, which is to say, like, going back to Taoist ideals, look at water, look at the way a river flows. The river isn't intending to go left and then right and then twist and then turn at those moments. It's completely in harmony with the river banks and the mountain around it and the valley. Like it is totally natural. Its flow is spontaneous. And what I hear in what you're saying is,
Real quick, and you'd never say that the river is wrong. You'd never point at the river
oh,
and
that's
say you're
good.
wrong for the way you are.
I love that. Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's a great, exactly. And so for those saying, okay, I shouldn't have preferences, great. First of all, there's no shoulds, but if you're hearing it that way, have no preferences, don't do anything, you know, all of that. That's a I think it's a misinterpretation of what's being said. Um, Instead, you're not attached to it and you're not identified with it. Preferences still happen, and amazingly, and this is so cool to watch, action still happens. You will notice this body. The thoughts will pop into the mind, directing the body to do and say and move in a very natural way. In fact, this was I just recently finished reading a book on Confucianism, but Confucianism and Taoism conflicted um, around this exact point. Zhuangzi, he famously like refuted or pushed away these Confucian scholars who were really regimented in ritual, because Zhuangzi's point was everything, all action should be natural. Now, I would argue that in certain environments, it may be the most harmonious action to perform ritual, to meaning to do things according to rules. If you're in a government position, you speak and you say in a certain way. That may be the most harmonious form of action. So naturalness doesn't necessarily mean like chaos. It just means you're in total harmony in the moment, and that there isn't a striving of a person pushing, forcing. And this is very pertinent and personal to me. A lot of my life, and for those listeners who've been with us for all these years,
Any other type A people listening?
yeah, yeah, type A. It's all like life. Think about the grind, the hustle mindset, right? It's all about push, force. Visualize what you want to achieve, and you can achieve it. Just go out there and grab it. Like this is probably the opposite of what we're talking about. Allow the action to come from a place of harmony and naturalness.
Yeah, and I think I want to go. I want to rewind a little bit because you're using words like "allow it to happen a certain way." I want to clarify because this is how I think about it. We're already talking about the dissolution of self. So I've already kind of like ripped the Band-Aid off. You don't have to allow anything. That's the way it's already happening. You have a preference for a black pen, not because you hate blue, but because you have a preference for a black pen. The mind comes in and tells you why you have a preference for a black pen. The mind comes up with a reason after the preference happens. And so you can actually watch it happen. The first time like you encounter something that you've never encountered before, you have a reaction to it. And it's fine to notice the reaction, to notice it's a preference. The reaction is the preference. And then your mind, after you feel it, your mind will tell you why. But that reason can change because multiple people can have the same reaction to one thing for different reasons. The reason is not tied to the preference. The reason is the story to keep you trapped in thinking the preference means something. Because if it means something, then you can create more tension and you can keep running from yourself. So preferences occur just like water flows. A lot of people think that somehow experience stops, that there's just a blackness. There's just, if you go through with this, that there's just nothing. There's just nothing. And you die or something, right? Like it's like a zombie. Like people just this zombie thing keeps coming up. Like people think you become a zombie. That's not the case. It's just you stop resisting what is. And so much of who we think we are is fighting things that people see that and they say, "Oh God, who would I be if I wasn't fighting this?"
Mm.
And that's why it feels like something's being taken away. Because we want to fight, we want to defend, we want to say why we want. And when you remove all that, you see that you don't have to allow anything, because it's just happening regardless. It's happening in your consciousness. There's no difference between one thing and another.
In a certain way, this is really good. It's really good practice, meditative practice. Just this morning, when I was sitting in meditation, um, all I did was just close my eyes and go deep within, and just became
How deep?
aware, about 50 feet, 30
Okay,
feet, 30
that's
feet
pretty
within.
far.
Yeah,
It's pretty
yeah.
far for a person.
Yeah, I mean, it's like compression. Compression sickness was a real thing. I had to slowly go back up. Um, Actually, a side note: I've been playing with using certain audio entrainment, like that gets you into like theta delta states. It's pretty fun.
Is that word
Um,
entrainment? Is that what that's called? I haven't heard that
yeah,
used.
audio entrainment. Yeah, so there's
Okay.
multiple forms of it. You get binaural beats, which is like classic. But there's isochronic tones, but it's basically like these tones that make your brain waves go into a certain state. Okay, we're going into science now, but
Can you tell he's a doctor, people? Can you tell he's a doctor? Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
it's
Go
fun.
ahead.
It's
This is
fun to play
fascinating.
with. To aid
Yeah,
in
so they're
meditation.
basically sounds and things that turn your brain onto certain wavelengths, essentially,
Yeah,
or
like okay.
frequencies.
This is definitely a tangent, but I can't. We should explore it. Um,
Let's do it.
But so they've done these studies where they hook up EEGs, electroencephalograms. They measure the brain waves of Buddhist monks, meditators. Actually, Mingyur Rinpoche,
Hmm.
famously one of the monks who got tested, and they can measure the brainwave states that they go into. And what's amazing, first of all, is they appear to go into what is we would call deep sleep or dreamless sleep. The difference being they're not sleeping. They're fully conscious, but their brain waves look like they're in deep sleep. Whereas a usual human being would be unconscious, these long term meditators are fully conscious, fully aware, but their brain waves are going to the deep places. And then one interesting tidbit from some of the recent research is when they start to practice loving kindness meditation, like really holding a deep sense of compassion and a desire to serve and help others, in that deep state, the brain starts to produce gamma waves. Now, the interesting corollary is deep sleep is delta. It's super slow. The brain waves are very, very slow. But gamma is super fast. It's actually faster than the regular brain waves that occur when you're awake. So we don't know why. We don't know why, but some people have to theorize that it has to do with the integration of various neural networks in the brain. So the deep integration happens when you start to think about others in a loving way. Um, anyway, so I've been there. There are all sorts of audio tracks out there. You can type in brainwave entrainment, and then you just listen to it. It's like sounds of
You put a
rain
link
and
in the
stuff
show
like
notes?
that. Oh God, there's like hundreds of thousands on YouTube, but we can type it.
You better.
Um, and it's for those who don't like to meditate or find meditations hard. I would recommend listening to some of these tracks. It'll make you feel like you're going into a deep state, but you don't really have to meditate
Mm.
for 30 years to get there. But it doesn't
What's the fun? What's
absolve
the
you.
fun in that? What's the fun
Yeah.
in not having the struggle
Well, the
and the
fun
pain of the
comes.
learning?
Okay, okay, Mr. Sadist, or masochist, I should say. But yeah, so you could go deep, but you still have to do the work. Obviously, you still go within and do the work. So, like I was saying, I was
Yeah.
meditating this morning and um, going into a really still place, and the only thing I looked at, just aware of my own awareness, aware of this present moment, and I asked myself, is there any resistance here? That's it. Is there any resistance here? Is there a total allowing or not? And I know you, to the point that you brought up, allowing isn't maybe the best accurate word to
I think it's
describe
a great.
this.
I think it's a great word. No. I think it's a great word.
For me at least, it's like a key. Just in the
Yeah.
asking, there's this sharp awareness. There's like this quick clarity that happens, and just seconds after I ask the question, I'm usually aware of some subconscious or deep resistance.
Hmm.
And often it's subtle. And it's just the need to go there and to look at it and observe it. And oftentimes, just in the looking alone, just in having that courage to look and recognize, yes, there is resistance to this moment. There is a resistance to
Hmm.
life. In that seeing, something dissolves, something fades away, and allowing occurs. There, peace starts to arise, and then I
Hmm.
just rest in that. I rest in that peace, and it's funny because I feel like I'm playing with these super subtle, minute waves of consciousness, if you will. But I feel like that is, it's like the earliest wave hundreds of miles out in the ocean, but
Hmm.
as it
Yeah.
approaches shore, it turns into a tsunami. But
Yeah.
I think if you can play with those subtle waves deep in your mind, you save yourself a lot of trouble before they become tsunamis.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. I think. Oh shoot, there was something there that. Something there.
Tsunamis,
Oh,
meditation, brainwaves.
tsunami meditations. Meditate on tsunamis. No, it was everything we're talking about removing layers. We're not talking about adding more concepts. The stuff we're talking about is self-evident. The more and more quote unquote layers of the onion that is you remove. It's none of this is that's why this moves from that's how you move from theory to practice in this. It's good to understand the theory, it's good to understand it conceptually, but to do these meditations, to ask yourself, like you just said, is there resistance? I've totally done that myself. Absolutely. Just checking in with yourself. Is there resistance? And why does it why does it dissolve when it's seen? It dissolves when it's seen because it's not natural for it to be there. It's covering up something else. And what it's covering up is your natural state, which you see once that resistance goes away. And then another resistance comes when you're not aware of it, another one. And that's how you slowly start to peel back the onion.
Why did we pick an onion for that metaphor?
Because they're stinky, but they're also
Hmm.
delicious.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you
The
ever
smell of
eat onions, but like your wife hasn't eaten onions, and then she's like, "No, I don't think I'm gonna kiss you right now." And you're like, "Why did I make that choice?"
Well, you gotta get her to eat
That's
onions.
that's the trick. Yeah, you say, "All right,
That
time for you to eat some onions."
then you get like a kissy onion breath.
Mm-hmm.
I think the smell of onions. I mean, I remember this. My grandma, Pakistani grandmother, I'd come back from school when she used to live with us. She would cook onions and and ghee, right, clarified butter,
Mm-hmm.
and or sometimes just like onions and butter. Uh, that smell, like right before adding the sauce and the chicken, or whatever, but like that the beginning of the cooking your like slightly caramelized
Mm-hmm.
onions and butter.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, oh,
Oh yeah.
salivate with just that.
That's like when you start anytime you start cooking, because onions and garlic are a lot of times the base for cooking, and then
Yeah.
like people just walk into the room like, "What are you cooking?" And it's
What
like,
are
"It's
you
just
cooking?
onions. It's onions and garlic," and it's every
Yeah.
time it's like magic. It's like they get attracted. It's like moths to a flame of what are you cooking? Onions.
Onions. Well, maybe that should be the new metaphor. Instead of peeling onions, you just cook them and caramelize them.
But
Caramelize them. It doesn't work as well though.
yeah, I don't know, man.
It's the
I think you might
layers.
be. I think you might be trying to reinvent the wheel here. Do you want to
Yeah.
use another one? What about like Russian dolls or
Oh yeah.
what's another thing with layers? I don't know. What other things have layers, Adam?
Mm,
If you listen to this, throw up some suggestions. What other things have layers? That's not
jackets,
onions.
coats.
Yeah,
I like
sure.
the
For
Russian
sure, for
dolls.
sure.
That's
Mm-hmm.
that's good.
No, the
Okay,
jackets and coats are what?
I got another quote.
Okay, great.
All right. When the mind exists undisturbed in the way, there is no objection to anything in the world. And when there's no objection to anything, things cease to be in the old way. When no discriminating attachment arises, the old mind ceases to exist. Let go of things as separate existences, and mind too vanishes. Likewise, when the thinking subject vanishes, so too do the objects created by mind.
Oh boy. This is a very deep rabbit hole that I don't know that I want to go down right now. We're
Well, let
already
me let me just
45 minutes into this episode, man.
the first one. I mean, I just keep coming back to this feeling the tension of existence.
Yeah.
I think if there was a theme to this episode, it's be present to the tension of existence, that inherent resistance you have to the
Yeah.
present moment. When the mind exists undisturbed in the way, there is no objection to anything in the world. Just that sentence. Just that sentence. And it's one of my favorite um, spiritual texts is A Course in Miracles, which is sort of a Christian metaphysical. It's not really Christian. It's more really it's more Vedanta, but it uses Christian terminology. And there's this passage in there that talks about forgiveness, uh, and it talks about letting go. Forgiveness simply is. It merely looks and waits and judges not. It does not seek to twist reality to appearances it likes. And I always come back to that sentence because this is exactly what Sensan is saying over here. Like, what part of you is objecting to the way things are? Doesn't mean you can't take action and change things, but internally, is there an attitude towards reality, that is an objection. Like you're saying no to life in a certain way.
Mhm.
Just being aware of that.
Yeah, I'm you go to ACIM and I go to Sailor Bob Anderson, who is a disciple of Nisargadatta, 20th century Indian master, and he has a book, and the title of it is "What's Wrong with This Moment If You Don't Think About It." I think that sums it up perfectly.
So good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have that book. Just looking at the cover is enough
Yeah, right. All you need
to
is the
wake you
title.
up. Just the
Yeah.
title will wake you up.
Yeah.
What a
Yeah.
pointer right there. Wow. Say it again.
What's wrong with this moment if you don't think about it?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Well, speaking of titles, I don't know what the heck I'm going to call this episode. This has been a lot of different topics, rapid fire.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I mean, really, this Shin Hsin Ming thing from the
This
third
Shin
Zen
Shin. Okay,
Patriarch.
that's it. That's it. This Shin Shin Main thing. That's the title of the episode.
This
Got it.
Shin
Nailed
Hsin
it.
Ming thing. Oh, God.
You should not
Sengcan,
open your
dear
mouth around me.
Sengcan,
Yeah.
ancestor to Zen, please forgive me and forgive Stephen. I hope he's not turning around in his grave. I heard it's possible that it's like a later disciple of his is the one who wrote this, and it was attributed to him. But I guess the further back you go in time, the more likely those sort of things happen.
Yeah. Let's finish up. Let's end on a high
Okay.
note.
Let me finish up by actually
Okay.
can
Okay, and
I
then this is going to be it. This you're going to read
okay.
this, and then we're not
I'm
going to
gonna
say
read
anything about it.
this is the
And it's going to
last
end.
paragraph.
An
Oh, this
hour of
okay.
silence after this.
Okay,
Yeah, this is
an
it.
hour of silence. All right. Okay, let me
No,
read.
after you read it. After you read it. Yeah, yeah.
And then we just close and end.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well then,
I hope you've enjoyed this
let me read
episode
it.
before Adam reads it.
Yes. Thank you all for listening. Actually, just a quick shout out to several of our listeners who send us mail via Buzzsprout. I don't know how you do it. I actually don't know the links that show up.
Apparently, Buzzsprout we have our own podcast webpage on Buzzsprout, and people send us things there. Just so you know, we can't respond to those. So, sorry. We can respond to Spotify comments. So if you listen on Spotify, I don't know about Apple, but if you listen to Spotify, we can reply to those, but we can't reply to Buzzsprout ones. This is fine, but we hear you. We will be doing an episode on sleep and dreaming shortly.
And maybe astral projection. I had a couple people mention that too.
That goes
Lucid
in.
dreaming,
That's just
astral projection,
sleeping.
all of that
Sleeping.
stuff. If you want, we love emails, and we will always respond to emails, probably in a lot more depth than we would on any other platform. So if you're interested in just shouting out and saying hi, it's letters to the sky podcast at gmail.com. Letters to the sky podcast at gmail.com. Okay.
Adam promises to respond within 6 hours. Okay, go ahead, Adam.
All right. Each thing reveals the one. The one manifests as all things. To live in this realization is not to worry about perfection or non perfection. To put your trust in the heart mind is to live without separation. And in this non duality, you are one with your life source. Words, words. The way is beyond language, for in it there is no yesterday, no tomorrow, no today.